Well, hey, friends and family of the way. I'm standing literally in the spot where in fall of 2018, 2 years ago, Pastor Ann and I began to pray together about what it would be to come together and to make room for one another and to make room for a new community here on this campus. And it's surreal to me to think that I'm now back in that same spot and reflecting on how that's going to become a reality, hopefully very soon, because of our collective commitment to making room. And I pray that you've been joining us in this series, because if you recall, a few weeks ago, we started with the idea that in order for us to make room for others, it only comes from an outflow of our making room for God. And so we began a 21 days of prayer that we're continuing to be in at this very moment. And I pray that you're continuing to join with us daily in that. But if you missed out, we had a powerful prayer walk this past weekend too. And so we're going to send you a link to that so that you can do it virtually and walk through this entire campus and imagine with us what God's been placing on our hearts to be and to become in terms of making room for others. After that first week, though, in our sermon series of Making Room, we kind of moved to a question. And that question's this, is to what extent are we willing to go in order to make room for others, to encounter Jesus, to experience Jesus, to be in a relationship with him? And we reflected on the four mat carriers that opened up the roof, literally, in order to bring a paralyzed man into the presence of Jesus. And how we are being called, how we envision this community, the way, being one of mat carriers, that we're committed to sharing in hope and living with purpose for the sake of others. And that we're willing to open up, just as they opened up the roof, in order for others to experience and encounter Jesus the way that we have begun to experience Jesus in our own lives. And this past week, we began Lent. And I love the way that Anne reminded us of our why. Why about making room? And it begins with Jesus. It begins with John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And her reminding us that Jesus shows us the extent to which God loves us and the extent to which God has made room for all of us. And it would cost him greatly. The great sacrifice, Christ's sacrifice for us. This season of Lent reminds us of our why and the extent to which God loves us and the extent to which God is desiring to make room for us to be back in relationship with him. And so again, I invite you to be in a season of prayer as we reflect this Lent season about his sacrifice for you, for me, and for this community that we're a part of. We're 62% of the 44,000 people that live here in the greater Woodstock area have no faith connection and no faith community to call home. His sacrifice was not for us, but for all of us, for the sake of all of us. And so I pray that this has been stirring in you what it means to make room and how you might respond to God's sacrifice for us. And I want to invite you to personally join with me and join with Pastor Ann in worship this Sunday at 10 a.m. We're going to have a special day of worship. We're going to hear from our choir and our praise team and our Next Generation band, and they're going to lead us in worship. And we're going to reflect on what is our sacrifice going to be in response to his sacrifice. Because this is about making room, not just on this campus, but more importantly in this community and in our hearts, so that we can become the community that God has blessed and called us to, the vision that Ann and I had standing here some 2 years ago about this becoming a campus and a community, one in which people no longer pass through, but they come to, because they come and encounter the hope that we have to share. And hope has a name. You know it, Jesus. That's who we're here to share. And it's because of his great sacrifice. I pray that you'll join us in this continued journey. So pray with us over this next week and join us in worship. I look forward to seeing you this Sunday.